Hello, welcome to the inaugural TurfTech. It's exciting to be here and lots of people here, which is really exciting to see that. So thank you for coming, taking time out of your busy schedules. And as Eddie and Florian said, I think there's a lot of good information that you'll see over the next couple of days. So I do realize that not everyone has English as a first language. I'm going to try and speak slower than I normally do. Sometimes I get excited. If I'm going too fast, just wave and I'll try and slow down. And it's not a British accent, it's a Canadian accent, so not American. And that's important because I'm going to talk to you about covers. And if you know one thing about Canada, this is probably what you think: cold and snow. And we certainly get that. Not all year, but we get a lot of it and we know how to deal with it. So covers have been our mainstay for 55 years. We started in 1969. We actually started as a company from Finland that came to Canada to sell and rent tarpaulins. And that's where our business started. So we have a lot of experience through the decades, through changing materials, changing weather conditions. So these pictures are in the US, and the reason I've shown those ones is because of the amount of snow. And when you're looking at a rain cover or a snow cover, specifically you're looking at pitch management, so moisture control, content on the surface, and freezing on the surface. So one of the best ways to do that is with a cover. And what sets our covers apart is that they're a unique material that typically is not found. Unfortunately, I don't have larger samples, but not found in Europe as much. So it's a polyethylene material, and if anyone's interested, I do have some smaller samples I can show. But what's unique is the makeup of it. It's a very strong material, polyethylene. It has cores in it that are the main strength, and the coating, but the coating is slippery. That means that snow and ice don't stick to it, so snow and ice can easily be plowed off, brushed off, broomed off, whatever you may need to do. And we have various weights available depending on the amount of snow that you would have, but we also make them in smaller sections. They're all bespoke, so we make them smaller, we make them larger, depending on the size of crew you have and how you would handle them. But basically what you're doing here is you're keeping the snow off the surface, you're holding some heat in the surface as well with these covers, but by keeping the snow off, when you peel the covers back, your pitch is ready to play. If you let the snow come on your pitch and you try and broom it off, brush, whatever the case may be, you'll still have remnants of that snow on the surface. With a cover, you're keeping that snow from the surface. If any of you have training grounds with infill pitches, and if you're plowing and you're moving all that crumb rubber to the side, this would stop that. Because now you're not plowing the crumb rubber to the side, you're plowing the snow off the covers, and all the crumb rubber is being left in place from where it was originally. So we find that also as a benefit. So it should be a video playing. Sorry, just waiting to see if we can get the video to play. Okay, I guess it's not going to go. Basically, we're showing this was set up in Denver. So here they'll get at any one time, they can get 30 centimeters at a time coming down in the snow. So what you can see here is a few things. Besides how easily the snow would slide off, you can see the equipment they're using. So the covers are that strong that you can actually drive tractors on there with plows on them, not a metal plow. In this case, it's a round tube, plastic tube that's strapped to it, but that's about 3 meters wide, so you can plow a lot at once and plow to the sidelines. So very effective way to deal with snow. Here you would typically have, in this part of Europe, in Southern Europe, less snow, maybe 5 centimeters at a time, 2 centimeters at a time. But again, that can be brushed off quite easily. Rain is the same thing. It would simply go off with rain. You can actually use leaf blowers to blow water off the surface. If what we call the crown, if your pitch is completely flat, you can still blow water off it, and then you roll it up. And I'll come into when we get our other covers how we actually handle or manipulate the covers, putting them down and bringing them up. So next is frost covers and germination blankets. And this is a little different than typically what's being seen in Europe. traditionally there's been frost covers, which are usually a black mesh material, and there's been germination blankets. And the frost covers are black mesh, they absorb moisture, they're very heavy to handle, difficult to put in place. Because they're black, they draw in a lot of heat, which means timing is critical for getting them on and off so you don't overheat the pitch. Whereas frost blankets have been what I'd call a felt-like material, but a geotextile. Typically they will hold heat, but as grass shoots grow between them, when you pull the cover off, it pulls the new grass shoots out from the ground. They also have a low tear strength, and when they get wet and heavy, they start to rip apart. Usually they're used for a season, 2 seasons at most, and they're thrown away. So what we have with our evergreen cover is an all-in-one cover. And this is quite interesting. And again, I have these up here if anyone would like to see afterwards. But what we actually have is what we call a lace coating on it, where the surface is only coated about 35% of it. The rest is open. And what that means is that the air can pass through, water can pass through, excess moisture can vent out of the cover. So it does hold heat. It holds it very well. It works very well as a frost cover, again, properly vented, but as a germination, it's also outstanding. For the germination, what's happening is because you have a cover, less seed can be blown away in the wind, less seed can be washed away in the rainfall, and less seed will be eaten by birds. So you have more seed left in place. With the covers, you'll also have a quicker germination, and you'll have a longer root development. So you have a higher percentage seed left in place, a quicker seed germination, and a longer root development, which leads to a healthier turf pitch for the upcoming season. Also great for repair areas during the season. But if we look at, for example, the temperatures, so what you're looking at here is the cover. So in this particular case, the temperature outside was 3.2 degrees Celsius, but under the cover of the soil, the top layer was 15.6 degrees Celsius. And there was an interesting work done for the Pro League in Belgium last year, consultancy, and what they came by mathematical calculation is that if you're using undersoil heating, and if you have a cover, any kind of cover on top of it, you'll reduce your energy usage to about 20% of what you would otherwise use. That was a mathematical calculation, but that's what they came up in their promotion and going to the club saying for energy efficiency, this is something that you want to consider, especially with energy prices where they're going. But that just gives you an idea of the difference that you can have with a cover on the ground versus what you would have otherwise. So this is essentially how the evergreen works. And the critical thing here is the venting system. So the sunlight passes through, that's pretty obvious. Then it wants to come back up out of the ground. And what happens with the cover here, it sends it back down into the ground. So you're retaining more heat than you otherwise would, but you're able to vent out excess heat. And that's critical because if you hold too much heat and too much moisture, then you can have risk of disease, especially depending on the time of year, because you're not properly venting. So with this cover, because it does breathe and it doesn't hold that moisture, it will easily let that excess heat and moisture. So what we like to say is it gives you an optimal growing temperature for germination. And the same theory goes for the frost as well, is that you're holding that heat in so you're not getting the frost under the cover. Now, one of the advantages of the evergreen cover is that because it's a polyethylene, again, it's slick like the rain covers, so things don't stick to it. That also means that in this case, it doesn't absorb moisture like you would in the black mesh covers. So this cover will be not as heavy as a black mesh to begin with, but then after you have moisture on there, if you have a frost, this cover is going to be a lot lighter and easier to handle and much quicker to handle going up and down every time you do it. So this gives you the idea. The field was stripped down and then reseeded. So that was after 1 day, and this was after 1 week. You can see all the growth that's coming in quite quickly there. So that's the germination side. And again, to reinforce, I was just showing you previously some frost protection, but germination as well. And there are not any other covers out there that can do both steps, the frost protection and the germination in one product. So while the throwaway germination blankets are less expensive, by the time you replace that every year, by the time you buy your frost protection, our evergreen covers become very economical. And the lifespan on them, depending which grade you go with, you're looking at 7 to 12 years out of them. And we do see that on a regular basis from clubs. So one other unique feature is what we call the Smart Edge technology. So most covers, if any of you have had covers or you use covers, you typically will find an edge stitched on the side, a hem, and then you'll see brass grommets or rings put through there where you'd anchor. So there's a number of features why you don't want that on a frost cover or a germination blanket. The first thing is it limits where you can anchor that cover down. So you can't put in extra stakes if you have extra wind coming in based on the forecast. You can only anchor where you have those grommets. Because all the material is thinner to begin with that you would use for a frost cover, they don't have a lot of holding strength for grommets, so those grommets will pull out over time, which means you're losing how many points you can anchor it at. The other thing is now, once it's made, you can never cut it into a smaller piece if you wanted to use it somewhere, because once you cut out that hem, it'll start to unravel on you. So this material with the lace coating, we don't have a hem on it. What you simply do is fold it over and put the anchor peg through it. Now those anchor pegs we supply with it, there you can see the bright pink. They're fluorescent, so they stand out that you can easily see them, but you can peg it anywhere. And typically we have pegs to go every 3 meters around the entire perimeter of the cover. And then every 3 meters, there's a seam down the length of the cover. And we provide enough pegs to go every 3 meters along that seam as well. So you can actually peg in the middle of the cover, something you can't do with other covers. So you can really control based on the wind conditions you're going in, you have a lot more control. With this cover, you can always cut it down if you wanted a smaller piece to do a goal mouth area. If a piece was getting towards end of life, but there was still 30, 40 square meters in the middle that were good, you could cut it out and continue to use it for small repair areas. So it's a very versatile cover. Now what we have in here is we have 4 different models. And from those models, we have the Radiant, which is a silver coating. We have the Spectrum, which is an orange coating, Premium, which is green, and the Original, which is white. So we first introduced that in North America in about 1985, and it worked extremely well. The next step was the Premium, the green, a dark green, and the concept on that was it would draw more heat in from the sun, which it does do. The next step in the evolution was the Radiant, or the silver, and the idea on that is it acts as a mirror to reflect or radiate the heat back into the pitch. So when you're looking at this, with the Radiant compared to the Original, we have 25% more heat retention because the silver coating is acting like a mirror. And we saw the great improvement with that. And the next step in the evolution was the Spectrum, and that's an orange coating. And the orange coating is working a little bit differently. It still holds the heat, it draws heat in, it radiates it back down. But what the orange does is it changes the light spectrum as the UV rays or sun rays are passing through. And it changes it into an optimal growing spectrum, hence the name Spectrum. And what we find with the orange as well, the Radiant will produce a little more heat under the cover. The orange will spur growth more quickly under there. Now, any given cover for germination 3-4 weeks in, you're going to see similar results. But if you really want to push growth right away, the Spectrum will get you there more quickly. And for frost protection, the Radiant will give you a little more heat retention than you would with the Original. What we've also done is they have different warranties. So we have a 7-year prorated warranty, a 10-year, 11-year, and a 12-year prorated warranty. And the warranty is pretty close to what the lifespan is on these covers with regular use. They are exposed to a lot of UV rays because they're left out on the pitch. Even in the winter time, if there's sun shining, there is UV rays. But what we've done is, as we've gone up, we've added more UV inhibitors into the chemical formulation, and therefore we can offer longer warranties with them. So there are differences depending on where your budget is, depending on what you want to achieve. We do have a range of products that would probably work within your budget and what you're looking for. So this is just an idea of some of the clubs in Europe that we've sold to recently in the last couple of years. And this is important because when I'm standing up here and you're listening to me, you're probably thinking, oh, that's an American company. They're selling into the US. What do they know about Europe? And you're right. We do sell in the US as a Canadian company. What I can tell you is, if you're familiar with the National Football League, NFL, 90% of their clubs use our covers. Major League Baseball, 90%. Major League Soccer, 85% of those clubs use our covers. So we know about covering pitches, or fields as I would say. Quick side note, I come to Europe so often now and speak that now when I'm in front of our American friends, I'll say pitch, and they'll look at me. Do you say pitch in Canada now? Oh, sorry, I mean field. But the thing is that what's happening in North America, what's happening in Europe, there's an ocean between us, but it really is small. We all have the same challenges, all the groundsmen, everything we see happening in Europe, all the challenges are here. What you're trying to deal with, the unpredictability of weather, which is becoming more unpredictable every year, we already see in North America, and we're going through that. So this is the TartMate air roller, which I assume this video is not going to work either. So some of you may be familiar, and I think actually if you're around tomorrow, Eddie has our rollers out here, and over on the training grounds, he's going to do a demo of it, showing it roll up and down. But basically with this roller, when we make the sections, we're typically, depending on how you want it, 18 to 21 meters wide by the width of the pitch, so 68 to 72 meters long. 2 people can handle that. So with Eddie, he's got 5 sections that covers the entire pitch, and 2 people handle it. And Eddie could confirm at some point, but I think he's told me with the 2 guys, they can cover or uncover the pitch in an hour. If you had more guys, you could do it more quickly, but it is easy. You're not lifting the cover, very easy to roll out. But the nice thing about this, that picture is not even there. Oh, there we go. Here's the video now. So that's 3 people, and that one is about 30 meters long, that roller. This was in Los Angeles. Now it's gone. Anyways, 3 people, but 2 people can certainly do it. And it's really how quickly can you walk across the pitch is how quickly you can roll that out. The nice thing is once it's rolled down, this one, here we go. So here on this one, they have 4 people. This is just over here in Lowell, very close by. So they're using the Spectrum, the orange cover. And these are just some recent in the last year or so of clubs that have in Europe that have bought. But the interesting thing, if you start looking at the countries here, Hungary, Ireland, Netherlands, Norway, I don't have here, but Iceland. It's an all-weather climate. We sell evergreen throughout the world, but in all climate zones. We've sold in Iceland, we've sold in Norway, we've sold in Belgium, Netherlands, we've sold into France, all over the UK. We sell in northern parts of Canada. We also sell into Florida and Arizona, the desert. It really is a cover that can be used anywhere because it's the ability to breathe and to vent excess moisture. This is an idea. So the air rollers you may have seen before out there. Ours are a little unique. We took a look at what was there, and we believe we've improved upon it. So we have final inflation, main inflation, and deflation. So what really happens here is with a leaf blower, a backpack one with more powerful is quicker, but with a backpack, you can inflate these in about a minute and a half. And the final inflation, what that means is on the back, we actually have a flap here. So when you take off from filling this, air is going to want to rush out. You fill up, put the cap back on, take it off on this side to get to the pressure you want. When you take it off, the back pressure will hold that flap against the surface, so you're not losing air, so you've got time to get the cap back on. So they're very easy to inflate. We have these at both ends of the roller. So you can see the deflation is a large one. You can take the caps off at both ends and quickly deflate the cover. Very easy to use. And this gives you an idea. So this is a American football pitch, which is a little smaller. And this particular pitch, they run the covers down the length, not across the width. Typically, we see across the width. But with this one and 3 sections, you simply deflate it, and then you roll it up. And you can roll it quite tight, as you can see. So that is one whole section. This pallet right here, that's the entire pitch on one pallet. So it's up to you how tightly you'd want to roll it, but just to show you, for especially off-season storage, you can certainly get it tight, and it's not going to take a lot of storage. You can get it down to 2 pallets easily for an entire pitch. 1 pallet you can, but 2 pitches are no problem at all. Just some other things, training grounds. We do a lot of, in North America, we call it windscreen, but basically the mesh vinyl that you would put up on screens for privacy. Eyes can't see if you're training, to keep it out. We can do branding on it, logos, advertising, whatever you may think of. And then if you're looking for any kind of concerts or other events, even small events, dinners on the pitch, if you're getting those requests, we certainly have various levels of turf protection that you could quickly and easily have an event out there for. I'm sure your marketing departments are coming to you saying, hey, we need to create some revenue. We want to take advantage and get on the pitch and have a dinner out there, or whatever the case may be. So if you're getting that kind of pressure, we certainly have some products that could help you out. Any questions? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate every one of you being here, and hope to meet you afterwards.